Right, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, good morning, depending on where you are watching us from. My own name is Samuel Oludare Yerokon, and today is the Sunday, the 3rd of July, 2022. You know, every two weeks, we do have Alagba Femi Odedyi from the Yoruba Referendum Committee right on here with us. So it's the turn of another 2 weeks, and he's right with us today. What we'll be looking at today with Alagba Femi Odedyi, we will actually be assessing some of the documents that we have received from Yoruba Liberation groups. Alagba Femi Odedyi will be assessing those documents with us, and he will be giving us his own views or that of his organization, the Yoruba Referendum Committee. You are most welcome on the program, sir.
Thank you very much. It's nice coming on the program again today, which happens to be, for those of us in the Western Hemisphere or in the United States, a day to the celebration of independence for the United States from British colonial rule, which we also in Nigeria also suffered from. So it's a kind of yeah, thank you. I mean, it's the timing is good. Thank you.
Okay,
that's just by way of digression, but it's still the same within the same matrix. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alagba Femi Odedyi. And of course, today we will be looking at some of the documents that we have received from Yoruba Liberation groups. And that will be to take your views about these documents. I mean, what's contained in the documents, and either your views personally or the views of your organization, the Yoruba Referendum Committee. And what we'll be starting off with, this particular document, the people that sent it to us actually made us to understand that it was not signed, but it was, we could sense from what we've discussed before and what we've brought right on this program about a certain group that has been planning to have a sort of a government of Yoruba nationals in
exile.
So that we'll start from there. And this comes under the caption, notice to all Yorubas. Says, their fellow Yorubas, I hereby bring you the latest news or information from the leadership of our sovereign Yoruba nation. The leadership of the Yoruba nation self-determination movement. Please take notice of the fact that the Yoruba self-determination movement has gone beyond seeking a sovereign existence of or for the Yoruba nation. Rather, the sovereignty of the Yoruba has already been communicated to the world by way of the appropriate communication to the United Nations, more than 110 individual countries, and specifically the Queen of England, Her Royal Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. Also, it's been sent to Prince Charles of Great Britain, the United Kingdom Parliament, the African Union, the European Union, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and various political and social personalities in various places. As a result of this, and because of the fact that by way of being one ethnicity with a common language, history, culture, etc., the Creator has made us a distinct nation. By the standard definition of nation of our own, we have communicated our nationhood by right to the above and have stated to them our trust at this time to exist and operate as a sovereign nation and on our own, the Yoruba nation. We have therefore, beginning from the 27th day of May 2022, stood on our own as a sovereign Yoruba nation. As a result of this fact, we are no longer a part of Nigeria. Rather, we have returned to the nationhood that we have always been before the coming of the white man. the colonialists, and before Nigeria was forced on us. We are therefore today the sovereign Yoruba nation. The next thing for us to do now is the official disengagement from the country that we formerly belong to, that is Nigeria. With regards to this, the next step is for us to start our own government, Yoruba Nation government. This will be officially preceded by the official and public declaration of the sovereign Yoruba Nation. The only thing between now and that official or public declaration of our sovereign Yoruba Nation are the behind-the-scene operations we're engaged in order to ensure that there will be avoidance of bloodshed as soon as we make the public declaration of the sovereign Yoruba nation. The reason for the above is because we know that the Fulanese, embodied in and supported or sponsored by the government of Nigeria, had planned to take over of what is called Nigeria, as you are aware, and as testified by the murderous aggression of their king, which is now public knowledge. And therefore, knowing their propensity for murder and ethnic cleansing for the purpose of taking over our land, which we shall never allow, our leadership in the Yoruba nation are taking steps and taking time to ensure that as soon as we make the public declaration of the sovereign Yoruba nation, which will be by the grace of the Almighty, be any moment from now, we shall avoid bloodshed to the best of our ability. Please be reminded that the people we are dealing with, the Fulanis, are murderers. As a result, take security very, very seriously at this time and ensure that no inch of Yoruba land is lost and that we adequately protect our lives and properties. With regards to the above, be not deceived. The Fulani plan is to take over all of the land that is referred to as Nigeria. This is real, but they will not succeed. For them not to succeed, be proactive in ensuring your security and the security of the entire Yoruba land. This is crucial at this time. Once again, our leaders are putting us together to forestall any bloodshed arising from Fulani aggression. Once our leaders are through with taking the necessary steps, the official public declaration of the sovereign Yoruba nation will be made, and that is very soon. You are encouraged to be very prayerful at this time for the protection of the Almighty over the entire Yoruba land and its people, and also to pray that the Almighty Creator of heaven and earth will destroy all plans against the people of Yoruba nation and destroy all plans against Yoruba land. I'm going to jump a bit. With regards to this, please be informed that before we have an elected government of Yoruba land, we shall first, as soon as we make the declaration of the sovereign Yoruba nation, that is very soon, we shall first have an interim government. The purpose of this interim government is to run the affairs of the sovereign Yoruba nation during the period of time beginning from the soon coming public declaration of our nation, to run the affairs of our Yoruba nation during the period of time we shall be having our Yoruba Sovereign Conference. The Sovereign Conference is going to be the sovereign conferences of all Yorubas from our various tongues, that is Egba, Ijebu, Ekiti, etc., all the tongues that made up the Yoruba nation and that are found in Yoruba language. The Yoruba Sovereign Conference is going to be the conference for all Yorubas from our various tongues and communities. The purpose of the Yoruba Sovereign Conference is to put together our constitution, the Yoruba Nation Constitution. We shall together, as the Yoruba Nation, decide what we want in our nation and what we don't want. Look forward to this. And to ensure that members of this interim government do not use their position to arrange anything for themselves, with the Yoruba Sovereign Conference, while the Yoruba Sovereign Conference is going on, during the time of the interim government, our leaders in the Yoruba Nation self-determination movement have decided that those in the interim government shall not ever thereafter occupy any elective position in Yoruba Nation. In other words, those who will function in interim government, soon to be put in place in Yoruba land, are volunteers who lay down themselves and their services for laying a good foundation for kickstarting the operation of Yoruba Nation. They shall thereafter not be qualified to contest any election in Yoruba land. Meanwhile, the choice of Yoruba International Passport design that got the highest vote in our recent passport design voting will soon be made known to us. And lastly, please be rest assured that the sovereign Yoruba Nation is here. You've had a declaration stating that from the 27th of May this year, I mean, that's about a month ago, you can put it like that, that Yoruba has ceased to be part of Nigeria. However, the representative of these groups, they didn't say which of the groups they are. So that's why we've been unable to roll out the number of groups, the Yoruba Liberation groups that are involved in this. But what they're saying is that as at 27th of May this year, 2022, Yoruba is being declared a sovereign nation. And there are work going on at the back to ensure a smooth transition. But the writers have also said that they are yet to make a public declaration. Although this document will land is public.
Yeah.
But maybe officially they've not made a public declaration, by coming out or calling a press conference to declare that now this is us. But they made us to know that from the 27th of May, 2022, Yoruba Nation has ceased to be part of Nigeria. But they've also mentioned that they have people that are going to sort of negotiate with the Nigerian government so that there will not be bloodshed. And right at the back, they also have a sort of a setup for interim government, pending the time that a full-fledged government will be set over the Yoruba Nation. And as a clause, they've also put it there that those people that are going to be involved in the interim government will not be able to contest for any elective office thereafter, so that whatever service they will be given during the interim government will be from their heart, and it will not be for the purpose of achieving political benefits. And lastly, they mentioned about a passport that has been presented, the design of a passport that has been presented to people. They did say that they are a sort of a committee, a group of Yoruba self-determination group, and they've presented these passport design, and the one that has the highest votes will be presented soon. So the first question I'm going to fire to you, sir, since they said they are representing the Yoruba self-determination group, is to ask, is your organization, the Yoruba Referendum Committee, involved in this?
Absolutely no. Absolutely. We are not involved in it, and we cannot be involved in it. I don't know whether I should say the reasons for that now or wait for other questions to follow. But the simple answer to the question is no, and it is absolutely no. We are not involved in it, and we cannot be involved in it.
Okay, let's pick it up from that word, that your group cannot be involved in it. Why?
Because it is a joke. It is a political joke. The entire statement is political laziness. Number one, you cannot simply gather somewhere. Yeah, okay, you can people can gather themselves together and declare anything they want to declare. That is they have the right to do that. But the question is, you don't make a declaration like that in a vacuum, and then you don't commit people to such a declaration without their input. So now we have three white tendencies in Yoruba land. They are recently, I think the vice president, who is also a Yoruba, represented Nigeria at the ECOWAS summit, I think last week or during this week. We have a Yoruba who is running, not wants to run, who is a candidate in an election that is supposed to come up next year, who is also Yoruba. We have Yorubas in government at different levels. That is one segment. You have another segment that is opposed to the sitting government that wants to replace them in an election. Like we have in Yoruba land now, we have the PDP in Oyo State, and we have, APC in other states. Then there is another segment that one can categorize as self-determination, but with different tendencies. There are those that are seeking autonomy, or what we had the regional governments in the past. There are those who are seeking some kind of accommodation within the Nigerian state. So when all these broad groups are not involved in that declaration, it makes it a joke. Now, those groups may or may not be behind the scenes, so I can grant them that maybe everybody's playing their own game. But the point is this: there is no way you can write. Well, you can write, like I said, you can write anybody, you can write anything. But if you write the Queen of England and Prince Charles and the United Nations and everybody, that you are now a sovereign nation, and these bodies, they have official representation with the Nigerian government, and they are pursuing that representation every day. The last time the UN representative for Nigeria visited the governor of Anambra State and talked about technical assistance and all this and all that. The American ambassador, the UK High Commissioner to Nigeria visited, I think, Buhari or somebody, and talked about this. And the Nigerian government has already or is signing an agreement with the UK government on criminal repatriation and stuff like that. So you have all these official activities going on. Nigeria has a permanent representation at the UN with a member at the General Assembly and all these things. So if they are serious and they wrote these agencies, we are curious to know what the responses were or are. And we did, wherever we see this publication, we query them. Okay, which agencies do you write? What is their response? And nobody is able to provide any credible answer. So that is one. Two, the question of liberation is not the former chairman of the Communist Party in China, which they used to quote Mao, say it's not a tea party. And it was even good. I didn't even know you are going to read this letter when I started by saying that this is the period in America about British colonization and the Declaration of American Independence, which was on July 4th. When they declared their independence from Britain in America, I think that was 1770 something. When they declared their independence, Britain didn't just say, okay, yeah, bye-bye, see you later, right? They fought a war. They fought a revolutionary war to establish that independence. In Africa itself, let's now come back to Africa. In Somalia, when, Siad Barre was the president and all that, and they started fighting an internal crisis, and Siad Barre was overthrown, they tried to set up an alternative government in Somalia. But one part refused to be part of that setup, and that part is known as Somaliland. That Somaliland declared its independence. Since 1991, no country has recognized it till today. But they are using it for all kinds of international conspiracies and all that in Somaliland. So it is left for the Somaliland exiles, those who are abroad, that are now sending money to their people at home to sustain the independence. Is that what you want for Yoruba people? No. So we have set examples, historical and contemporary, that is not a question of mathematical equation or causality that, okay, because it happens there, it must happen. No, but there are certain basic principles in human liberation that are not part of what this declaration is all about. Okay, you don't want violence. No one wants violence. You want to negotiate with the Nigerian government to have your sovereignty, but your people are already part of the Nigerian government you want to negotiate with. Unless, like I said, maybe at the background, those people are also part of the entire declaration. And then in our own case, even in Nigeria's case, we saw how the Biafran Declaration of Independence was handled. In the, it's the same May 27, I think, May 27 or May 30, 1967, when Ojukwu declared independence, Biafran independence. But aside from what the central government at that time did, we also know that the minorities in the eastern region were opposed to that declaration because they said they don't want to be under Igbo domination. And it was through them, through the eastern minorities, that the central government was able to militarily box in the Biafran people. So now that you are now saying you have a declaration, you have written this, you have written that, and there are these several tendencies in Yoruba land who are not conversant, unless they did this secretly, I will still maintain, with what you are doing. It's just a joke. And that's just the better part of it. The most insidious part is that the attempt is actually to checkmate Yoruba land. It's an attempt at checkmating whatever it is we are struggling for. Because when you make this kind of declaration without any backup in Yoruba land, and then you start going all over the place talking about sovereignty and passport and stuff like that, the end result will be that we'll be fighting each other in Yoruba land, while the Nigerian government you want to negotiate with is organizing its own legitimacy by organizing the elections, and whoever is declared winner will be accepted by the rest of the world. Meanwhile, you have done the damage because, one, Yoruba people might be, a lot of your supporters, that is their supporters, may be discouraged from voting, so they won't vote. They might intimidate people from participating in that process. So at the end of the day, it is the Yoruba people that will lose, because even in your own land, you have non-Yoruba people who will vote for their candidates, and their candidates are not going to be Yoruba candidates. We know it. So if you disarm your own people by this, what I will call a harebrained scheme, you are leaving room for outsiders to take over your land. So indirectly, you are working for what you claim to be opposed to. So that is my attitude towards it, and that is why the Yoruba Referendum Committee is totally opposed to it, and we are not going to. And that's why, usually one tends to hold back from criticism of any group or organization or anything. But this time, it has gone beyond that. It's not just a criticism of an organization, but actually educating our people, because we have engaged them on the claims that they are making, and none of them has been able to come up with any credible answer. So if that is the case, then it means we are not asking for secret questions. So, whatever it is they are doing in secret, we don't know. Let them do anything they want to do in secret. But the things that are public, like what is made in this publication, that you have done this, you have done that, and then we request proof or certainty of what you are saying, so that you will not mislead our people. But none of them can say anything. That alone is ground for our own opposition or discomfort. And then we will appeal to Yoruba people just to disregard them. Just disregard them. Let them, like I said, anybody can gather anywhere and make any declaration. If that's what they want to do. But I appeal to Yoruba people to disregard it and not give it a second thought. That's just it belongs to the, that's just the response to it. Yes.
Now, in the terms of what some liberators, I'll call them liberators, have said in the past, that could it be that they are trying to create a sort of a constitutional crisis that will definitely bring the Nigerian government to the table? Could it be like a sort of a strategy?
Well, it's not a strategy. Why is it not a strategy? A strategy must be situated within a context. You want to bring the Nigerian government to a situation table, to the table. There are many ways that the Nigerian government itself has created to make that happen. What are those ways? Number one, they are saying they want to conduct an election in 2023. The three major contenders are Yoruba, Igbo, and Fulani.
Yes.
So the best way to create a constitutional crisis is to make sure that each of the three nationalities maintain hold of their territories. Let the Yoruba vote for Yoruba, essentially. The Igbo vote for their Igbo, the Fulani vote for their Fulani. So when they now come to the situation that nobody met one part of the requirements, that is 25% in 24 states, then they will now force a runoff between the two leading candidates, whoever the two leading candidates are, in terms of the number of votes. And that way, the choices will be either the Yoruba against the Fulani, or the Igbo against the Fulani, or the Yoruba against the Igbo. That will create its own constitutional crisis. That is number one. I mean, that's just, I'm not saying they should go that route, but that's just one way. Now, another way to create a constitutional crisis is to have your own political formation in your own land that will be able to dictate to whichever political party emerges as the dominant party. You'll be able to create your own conditions to relate or engage that party. If you don't do that, there's no way you can create a constitutional crisis for a sitting, legitimate and valid government without having such things on ground. Or maybe tomorrow, you just discover that there's a Yoruba Liberation Army coming in from the border, trying to take ahead. If you don't do all those things, if those things are not there, all you can do, or all they can do, is to sit down in one corner and then make any declaration they want to make. You can print any passport you want to print, or do anything you want to do. It won't create any constitutional crisis, because there's no country that will recognize that passport. It's as simple as that. And that's why I like to use the Somaliland example. Yes. That even with, and this has been going on for over 10 years, so even with their own army and democratic institute, they conduct elections, they have all this paraphernalia of democracy and all that. No country has recognized them. So to create, it takes more than just a declaration of sovereignty to create a constitutional crisis. When they were having their party primaries, when the PDP, the Igbo were saying it is a turn and all that, and they expected the PDP to have a Southern candidate, and then the Fulani people in the PDP manipulated everything and gave it to one of them. You see, that could have created a constitutional crisis by itself, by the non-Fulani people withdrawing from the party and then going, doing something. So all these things are not happening. And then some group will now say, okay, yes, we want to do this. So it's not from what they have written. What they have written cannot lead to any crisis. It will just be on the paper it was written on. Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that. So there's no, don't let come off your ball. What is the way now? Don't call a dog a monkey or something along that line. Don't let them disarm us in getting involved with what is happening. It's like those who went to court on the Ekiti election and they want to stop Ekiti. They should not conduct the election. They should do this, they should do that. And we said it that if the court wants to be charitable with them, they will just keep on postponing it until wherever. But if the court wants to put its foot down, they just dismiss the case. And that's what happened. And another case is happening now. You see, one of the political situation and the questions of liberation is not a straight line. It has its twists and turns. Okay, we have said the PDP as a political party has now formally slapped non-Fulani people in Nigeria in the face by not even recognizing even the tokenism of having a Southern president. They put up another Fulani for that matter. Not even anybody, but a Fulani for that matter. So the only reasonable thing for anyone in the South to do is simply to campaign against the PDP, even if only on that basis, that here's a party that doesn't even give you a semblance of respect after all the agreements and all that. So all these are the ways to achieve or promote what we call liberation or self-determination, that we begin to make certain political choices unacceptable in our own land. But no, they are still going to court on Osun, and they are having their election in Osun, July 16 or something like that. So they will go to court and no election because they don't belong to Nigeria anymore. Nobody is asking you to vote now. If you don't belong to Nigeria, go ahead and live wherever you want to live. So no matter how we look at it, there's no strategy there. It's just at best grandstanding. At worst, an attempt at disarming Yoruba people.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think just the last one on that particular document.
Yes.
Is on record that the Ondo State governor,
yes.
Governor Akeredolu, has once said that whether there's any place where Yoruba people have sat down and decided on what exactly they want to do as Yoruba people, which was also mentioned by Femi Falana, the right lawyer. So if you situate that statement from the Governor Akeredolu, who happens to be the chair of the Southwest, if you want to situate what he said with what is being declared now, especially where you have a body, I mean, that's the way they put themselves as a body of self-determination groups that have declared a Yoruba sovereign nation as at the 27th of May 2022 and situate it with that statement from Governor Akeredolu. So do you see a sort of a conflict here between the political class and that set of Yoruba self-determination or liberators group?
Yes, obviously. That's why I mentioned the three broad tendencies in Yoruba land. Okay, here's a governor, a Yoruba governor in a Yoruba state. I'm asking, okay, where did we even sit down to agree on anything? But here you are now saying the body, I'm talking about the body, now saying, okay, they have declared sovereignty. Where did that come from? So, and here is a governor, this same governor, Akeredolu, who is challenging Yoruba people. Okay, at least 3 times. Where have we met to do this? Where have we decided on where we are going? And to crown it, or when they were having their party primaries, the same governor came out and said, actually, the president, it is now the turn of Yoruba to be president. And that he's talking on behalf of his people. That's what he said. So if we even limit it at that, is this body, this group, representing the Akeredolu tendency? Obviously not. So that's why I said, at best, we can say they are grandstanding. At worst, they want to disarm Yoruba people. Because it is one thing to try to carry Yoruba people along and say, let's decide where we want to go. Now, we cannot decide, the majority may be, we don't want to be part of Nigeria. Fine. The majority may be, no, let us rework things and blah, blah, blah. Fine. But then at that point, we have an official leg to stand on. And then if there's going to be a constitutional crisis, it will be based on that, on the validity of that official leg. So nobody will now be going about, who are these people? Where did they come from? Where are they? Why are they hiding? Stuff like that, because it will have been valid and legitimized. And that is what Akeredolu was asking about. And these people are not making any moves in that direction. All they are saying is that they have decided that they are no longer part of Nigeria. They have designed their passport and their currency and everything. Just as a throwback, during the days of Abata, we've had all those designs, flag, passport, currency, and all that. The Niger Delta people also had their own designs, their coastline, their republic, and all that, and all that. And when Jonathan came to power, everything about Niger Delta Republic became stories. So, I mean, anybody can sit down anywhere and design anything you want to design. But that is just what it is. So that's why I said we can accommodate them for grandstanding, but we should not remain in that accommodationist position, because it can constitute a danger to Yoruba people and Yoruba land if care is not taken.
Okay. If I will ask this,
yes,
would it be right for the self-determination groups to consider, I mean, just the same way that the politicians, like the governors and others, will make a statement and they will believe that because they've been voted into office, then if they make any decision, they already have the voice of the people, because the people had already voted them into office. So will it be right also for some of these self-determination groups and organizations to think that because they are fighting for the cause of Yoruba people and they have social numbers of people from Yoruba, for them to think that, yes, they already have the stamp of the people to speak for the people?
Well, yeah, it's one thing to assume you are speaking for the people, because number one, let's even assume that they have a register of their membership. and all that. The point is, the governor is the legitimate authority of the state. So if you have 10 times the number of people on your register against the members of the governor's party, all you need to do is to get the governor to legitimize whichever position is for the people. That is the purpose of either petitions or referendum or things like that. So when Akeredolu has, because he was voted into office, regardless of what he might say, was voted into office, by virtue of which he can claim to speak for his people or the state. Okay, so if you now have a contrary opinion or a contrary roadmap, and you have a larger number on your side, and the guy is even saying, where have we decided? All you need to do is to say, okay, we haven't decided. Oh yeah, let us decide now. Let us put this thing to the people to vote. Since we are not talking about violence or violent overthrow of the government or anything like that, we want to examine how the people are going to decide. So you, the governor, you have taken this position. We, the people, are taking this position. Let us put it to vote. And that is how the legitimacy of any position will be arrived at. And the governor is already saying, we have not. So you have not taken the governor to task on his statement, but you now sit down. I mean, what stops any group tomorrow from saying, we have formed an army and we are going to attack Abuja tomorrow? And the army is located in Akure in Ondo State. And the place is close to the government. What do you think will happen? So it is the responsibility of whoever is opposed to the validity or legitimacy of what is in authority to put that authority on notice and compel that authority to abide or look at your own position, and so that it can become the valid decision of the people in general. And we keep saying it, the governor himself is asking the same question. Where have we decided? And the simple answer to it is, oh yeah, let us decide. Nobody is saying that yet. They are not saying it. So if they are serious, all they need to do is to confront the governor. Okay, you are asking this, and here we are. We have this, so let us put it to the people to decide. And whichever way it goes, then that will be the official way. At that point, you can then say, yes, we can now appeal to the Nigerian government, the international community, and all this and all the rest of it, because the people have decided this is the way they want to go. So it's not if that is what they want to do,
yes,
then let them do that. But to say that we are sitting somewhere, we are going to declare a government and this and that and that and that, the best, those in government will just be laughing at them. And probably when they deliver the letter to the Queen will just say, who are these people? Let them continue, and don't let them, I'm too old to discuss all these things. don't let them give me any health issues. And of course, if they go to Boris Johnson, that guy. So, it's let them have a rethink. If they are listening or if they are hearing this, let them have a rethink. Let them consult with other Yoruba people that are also involved at one level or the other on these things. Liberation is not a closed affair. It's a contest of ideas. It's a contest of ideas within the people. So let them come up with their credible position. And then, we move from there. But you can't go about talking about an interim government and this and that when it doesn't even make any sense. There are those who are claiming they want to take over your land in Lagos, that you don't own Lagos. They have a presidential candidate. There are those who are saying that, yes, anybody anywhere in Nigeria is an indigenous of that place. They are trying. They have somebody that will be president. You whose land is under threat, you are now saying you have left. It doesn't make any sense because you can print a passport. Any printer can print a passport. Anyway, so.
All right, thank you very much. I mean, that's for the first letter. We're going to number 2. But before we go to that, we'll take a short ad break. Now, for those that are listening to us, I've been speaking with Alagba Femi Odedyi from the Yoruba Referendum Committee. We'll be going for a shorter break, and then we'll come right back to the next letter. Please stay tuned. Right, you welcome back to OY Media Scotland. My name remains Samuel Oludari Jirokon, and I still have Alagba Femi Odedyi on the program. And remember, the topic we're dealing with today is accessing documents from Yoruba Liberation groups. This station is right on your Facebook and on YouTube. Just type in OY Media Scotland and you'll be right on. Alagba Femi Odedyi, you are welcome back to
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. The second one we'll be going for was actually a document released on the 12th of June this year. And that is a date that coincides with the 1993 election win of Chief MKO Abiola, who unfortunately was arrested by the Nigerian military government of Sani Abacha, and of course he died in incarceration. His death and the failure to hand over his mandate obviously led to the emergence, so to say, of Chief Obasanjo, Olusegun Obasanjo, in 1999. This was signed by, I believe it's Onisegun Alabe of Yoruba Land, AF, and is dated 12 June 2022. He also said that he's representing a number of Yoruba self-determination groups. And I'll quickly read that. Oduduwa Regional Charter of Understanding. In the unfolding scenario of the Nigerian polity, the major players have presented us with an Ashiwaju article option, effectively being two sides of the same coin that is most likely to plunge us deeper into the abyss of despair. It has therefore become imperative that we fashion out a realizable objective framework of actionable steps, plans for implementations, and timelines for obtaining deliverables. The children of Oduduwa now have their future to contend with without any equivocation. As sub-nationalities, here they listed out the Yoruba Nation sub-nationalities covering Akoko, Awori, Ekiti, Eko, Egba, Ibadan, Ibarapa, Ife, Ijebu, Ijesha, Ikale, Ilaje, Igbomina, Ishekiri, Ogori, Magongo. Then there's one Ogu, Nina to refer to in error as Egbon, Okon, covering Bono, Ijumo, Owe, Oworo, and Yagba. We have Ondo. They have one that is called Onko. They said this is Okeogun, Osun, Owo, Owu, Oyo, Remon, and Yewa. Above is our makeup as a people with culture and language. This fact has now been used to formulate new governance ideas. Updates will be made as new facts come up. Now, this piece is said to be like a formulation of idea. And the proposal, in order to manage and drive the anticipated objectives, a body that is inclusive of notable leaders of thoughts and at least two bona fide representatives from the 26 subnationality listed above is being constituted. The proposed body will help process ideas for agreements of implementable actions. It will regulate its affairs and forge inclusiveness and give sense of belongings to all communities in our land. Another body of elders, Egbe Agbomo Oduduwa, is to be formed in due course to accommodate leaders or elders in the age range above 85 years that have offered a lifetime of service to the cause of our society. Next is an Oduduwa region out of Nigeria. The land territory, hitherto known as Yoruba land, shown in the map below, will be transformed into an Oduduwa region with autonomy to self-governance and be in control of our affairs, subject only to reciprocal protocols with ethnic nationalities in adjoining territories. In furtherance to the above, it shall be our quest that the portion of the North Central Zone that was historically ceded to the North region prior to 1960 be refigured as part of the new Oduduwa region. We shall work towards a mechanism for ascertaining the wishes of the people in the areas, along with others in Akoko, Edo, and Ishekiri lands of Edo and Delta states, respectively. It is thus understood that the following are to be incorporated into the map of the proposed Oduduwa regions, subject, of course, to the voluntary decision to belong by the peoples of the area. And this area covers Ilorin, some areas of Ilorin, and some other areas covering Kaba, Ijumo, Yagba West and East, Mopa, Moro, Lokoja, and Ogori. And of course, in Delta, you have Warri South, Warri North, Warri Southwest. And of course, in Edo State, you have Akoko, Edo. And there's a map here, obviously covering those areas. And the proposal is that the regionalization is predicated on the condition that the new units will be autonomous and self-sustaining with very minimal governance setup. The creation of lower tier units, therefore, must be based on consensus that will accord a sense of belongings to all communities in the new region. To be outlined in this section will be delineations with the following names as options. There's going to be provinces which will replace the states, and of course districts will replace the local government areas. And instead of the subsisting gubernatorial and legislative paraphernalia of wastefulness, we shall propose a provincial council that will integrate administration and legislative functions. It might be expedient to institute sub-regional entities as incorporated public corporation-like bodies, such that the citizens will be construed as shareholders. The goal will be to cap expenditure on administration while freeing more funds for infrastructural development. Now, the timeline. The Oduduwa Region Initiative will be unveiled in September 2022. The step to be activated towards its realization latest by October 2023 will be announced. So activities will start this year, September, and it is expected to be completed or concluded by October 2023. All other ethnic nationalities that are desirous of being constituted into autonomous region of Nigeria are hereby encouraged to adopt our model and commence proactive steps towards the stated goals based on the same timelines of implementation. It is by so doing that we can achieve a reconfigured Nigerian territory of the dreams articulated at independence in 1960. The next one is about how they will reach out to other ethnic nationalities, especially those that have adjoining areas with Yoruba land. Quickly move right to proposed region, which is Yoruba region. Other ones have been mentioned about the security, that if we are handling our security, definitely there will not be, we know where the shoe pinches and we're able to deal with that. Now, this is one of the areas that we need to cover also. So I'm going to read this out. Permit me for that. And this is clarion call to Yorubas in political offices at all levels. Why this is important is because some of the other self-determination groups have not interacted with the political office holders. I mean, those that have interacted with them in the past is really been about threats and insults. So, but for these particular documents, there is something for the political office holder. I know also that the Yoruba Referendum Committee is actually banking on these political office holders to pursue part of his agenda, which is, working on the bill, referendum bill that I've said before them, and they're moving that one into law. But let's get this one. Ordinarily, the Yorubas have their manners and way of living as Omoluabis of this world. We would rather look inward for solutions and enterprise rather than convert what belongs to others. Right from 1959 election, it has been on record that we were content with being in opposition at the federal level. We would rather strive through self-reliance and self-governance. This is therefore an historic clarion call on all Yoruba compatriots who are supposedly our representatives as politicians and occupiers of political positions out of our territory to urgently give consideration to a new approach of looking inwards with focus on an agenda that cuts the pride of place to the welfare of citizens. It is time to return home and apply your respective intelligence and sagacities towards the rebuilding of Oduduwa land with a more certain hope of making us the pride to the Black race and Africa's leading light to be. The years of Olusegun Obasanjo did not stand us in good stead, even if Asiwaju Tinubu were to be miraculously installed with the security architecture that has enveloped the presidency and the underlying bankruptcy of the economy. We will still be worse off under the unitary 1999 constitution. It will thus be in the self-interest of all our sons and daughters to whom this call is directed to treat this advisory with utmost seriousness. Yoruba people have very deep and long memories of leaders that respect their inherent sovereignty. All therefore should be part of the resolve to reclaim our dignity and self-respect at whatever cost. Let it be taken as traitors. Of course, there will be consequences. They also send message to religious leaders to join in for this, and they put the activities, just as was mentioned, that from August 2022, Constitution of Oduduwa Leadership Council, Constitution of Technical Work Groups, and by September, there will be an agreement and understanding to proceed with the formation of the movement for the actualization of Oduduwa region of Nigeria in order to mass organize and mobilize Yoruba citizen indigenous and the diaspora for identity consciousness and self-determination, and of course also to provide platform political action towards socio-economic development. Also, there will be public presentation of Oduduwa Leadership Council. By February, there's going to be, that's February next year, there's going to be public presentation and launching of Oduduwa Regional Readiness for Self-Governance Plans and launching of the Oduduwa Identity Cards Initiative. In May 2023, they plan to host the Congress of Yorubas in West Africa with all others in diaspora as participants. And in conclusion, he said, in this government is a brief on what we wish to covenant with our people at home and in the diaspora. We undertake to give effect and meaning to the spirit of words of our national anthem, and that's concluded with Ishewa Funlewa, which is the Yoruba national anthem. It was drafted and signed by AF, and that is on 12 June 2022. The first thing I want to ask you, sir, before we go right into this, is we just finished with a letter where a group has already declared that Yoruba is sovereign and out of Nigeria. Now we have another group, although it was signed by an individual, but in that piece is an element of some people working together, Yoruba Liberators, and they are planning to start something by, although they put it as September, but the details of their action actually started from August this year, which is setting up the Elders Council. So is there, I mean, it looks as if there's a contradiction between these groups. And that brings me back to the first question I asked you, whether your organization, Yoruba Referendum Committee, was part of the first one, which you said no, and you cannot because of the way things were done in that. So now this one too is representing, and they have a sort of a timeline of things that has to be done. So I will ask you the same thing, whether your organization is involved with this one or not.
I will say no, but with an explanation.
Okay.
It is no and yes. The explanation. No, in the sense that we are not involved in how this particular letter was packaged and all that. Yes, in the sense that many of the provisions in that letter are actually contained in our bill for referendum, and most of the things that we have published in our bulletins about what we mean by it and how it's going to go and all that. So the only difference between this letter, and what we have been doing is, the statement, the list of groups and the timeline and all that. That is the yes part of it. Even though the writer or the writers did not acknowledge the work of the Yoruba Referendum Committee, which is okay, because that's been Yoruba politics all along. Without going into details, I happen to know the person who signed that document.
Okay.
I happen to know him. How did I come to know him? He was supposed to be part of the Yoruba Referendum Committee initially.
Right.
That was when Baba Akintoye was head of Yoruba World Congress and all the rest of it, before everything scattered. And there's nothing that we publish, put out, that these people don't receive. Send it to them and all of it. So that's why I said yes, but with the explanation that to me, if I were to write such a thing, be part of people to write such a thing, I will acknowledge what others are putting on the table. It is not enough to simply say I represent, or this letter represents a group of people or a body of liberators. You have to be specific, as that is how, you have to be specific as to which group is saying what. If you now want to put everything under one umbrella, you can now put it under the umbrella. But to write such a thing as if it is coming out of the blues, leaves much to be desired. So I won't comment on that. So the body, the most important parts of the letter, like, for example, we are talking about regional government, we are talking about parliamentary system, we are talking about provinces and districts and stuff like that. It's all there. Even if anybody listening can go to the petition that we wrote or that we started on change.org and read the bill, the draft bill that was presented to the houses of assemblies in Yoruba land. All these things are there. So it's not something that is being made up. So the only thing I would just say is, no, we are not part of it. Yes, we are part of it in the sense that a lot of our propositions are contained in that letter, even though unacknowledged. But that's a different matter entirely. What I would just say is that it brings into focus the question, the issue above. Okay, there's one group that's saying they are declaring sovereignty. There's another group that is saying they want to be a region in part of the thing. And they are calling on, at least they recognize the importance of the political actors in the whole thing. So where do we go from there? That is why we, right from the beginning, insisted on having a Yoruba referendum. It is only through that referendum that some kind of position will be arrived at. And what are we talking about? We are talking about having a regional government of our own and all that, having under one single administration. Once we are able to cross that hurdle, whether, no matter, all other things will fall in place. But the question is, why is everybody running away from that hurdle? So they want to, I'm sorry, I'm jumping into a sort of critique of that paper.
Right.
We want to have a congress. We want to have an organization of Yoruba leaders. We have had all this before. Maybe it was a committee. It was an organization of Yoruba leaders that formed the Yoruba World Congress. And then it broke up, and then they went to Ilana Modra, and then Ilana broke up and went into different directorates. And then, so we've had all these things before. So what I would have expected was that people will now sit down and say, okay, why were these previous efforts, why did they fail? Why did they flounder? And what can we do to make sure that history does not repeat itself? That's the central question. But nobody wants to. So I think I have answered the question, Abby.
Yes.
It's no and yes. So we can go from there.
Right. And on the backdrop of that, because you did mention that some of the things you've discussed and the person that was the signatory to that document have been part of the committee in the past. And I've had access to your documentations and which you also mentioned that this has been put in the petition. Of course, he brought out his documents, which we just read in June 12, 2022. I actually got your petition here. Which I would want us to quickly look at, so that also we can show those people that are with us right on here. Okay, and I think that is this right on here.
Yes.
And the particular place I want to go to is just this area.
Yes.
I'm trying to see if whether are you seeing it clearly?
Yes, I can see it. Yes, I can see it here.
Okay. So I think I'll pick it from somewhere here. Okay.
Yes.
A federal Nigeria through a valid federal constitution to be known as the Union of Nigeria Constituent Nationalities with a federal presidential council, whose members will be selected or elected from each of the nationalities as federating units, and from whom a head of state will be selected or elected as the primus inter pares with an agreed term. Yoruba land, geopolitically known as the Oduduwa region and consisting of the present states of Ekiti, Eko, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Oyo, and all Yoruba lands in Kwara, Kogi, Edo, and Delta State to become an autonomous nation in the Union of Nigeria Constituent Nationalities and recognizing all persons in diaspora of African descent who claim Oduduwa/Yoruba ancestry, either through cultural affiliation or genealogical connection. The central government of the Union shall have no power to interfere nor intervene in the affairs of the Oduduwa region, save as shall be agreed by 3/4 of the members of the region's parliament. There shall be a division of the federal armed forces in the region, 90% of which personnel shall be indigenes of the region. The divisional commander shall be an indigene of Oduduwa region. Oduduwa region shall adopt a parliamentary system of government. This parliament shall have the power to make laws governing taxes, duties, excise, payment of debts, etc. It shall have the power to make laws governing the sourcing of funds on behalf of the region and to regulate commerce with the co-prosperity spheres within the Union of Nigeria. This parliament shall have the power to establish regional police service with responsibility to investigate regional crimes. The police service shall have no superintending control over the provincial and council police service, but shall coordinate activities at the regional, provincial, and local council level. The judicial power of the region shall be vested in the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, High Court, Customary Court, and other lower courts as the Parliament may establish. There shall be a Court of Appeal in each of the provinces. There shall be in each province a High Court from which appeal shall lie to the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court. The land ownership obviously shall be controlled by the Oduduwa customary form of land ownership. So if I take this, this came out before. Actually, this is being put
2017 or 18, I'm not sure.
Yes, so this has been on even before the petition came out. So obviously it's just to let our people know that what you've said is just clearly in line with the evidence that we have out there. But even with that document, taking maybe part or most part of what your own organization is putting forward, but there's still a sort of a difference. Where do they differ? I mean, the one we spotted is that although they wrote to the political office holders in Yoruba land, they also make a statement to the religious leaders, but they are actually not putting anything before the political houses in Yoruba land. I mean, that's the one.
That's the major
we've identified here. So in case there are others, but how this difference, how important is or are they?
I would say it is fundamental, though it's not insurmountable. That's why I said we can reduce everything to what we can call Yoruba politics. You know, everybody wants to be, but you know, that's okay. But the point is, when I ask why are people running away from something, see, when there must be a means or a force or a mechanism to achieve what you want to achieve. Now, if you say on this issue, yeah, we will form a leadership council and this and that, and then we will call a West African conference and all that. Yeah, it's okay. It's been done before. Meetings have been held in both in Yoruba land in Nigeria and in Benin Republic. There's even a leader in Benin Republic called Olofiji, who says he's the vizier of Yoruba people all over the world. So they hold meetings regularly and all that. So that's not the problem. So, but the problem is political. It is how do you or how do we achieve what we want to achieve? And that is what is missing in both instances. Those who have declared their sovereignty have not told us how they want to do it, because mere declaration by itself is neither here nor there. These people that are now setting up timelines, one of the problems we had with him, the signature, the guy who signed the thing, was on this timeline that you don't, this is a human relationship. It's not a mathematical thing. You can't simply say this time, this time, this time, this time. So anyway, so now they have their timeline and they have what they want to do. The question still remains, how do you want to achieve it? So when you ask the political actors to, quote unquote, come back home, how are they, when you leave, see, the central question is the Nigerian state. So even if they all decide to resign from the National Assembly and they not participate and they say, okay, they want to stay in Yoruba land, the Nigerian state architecture is still there. You still have to confront it one way or the other. So if they come home and then say they are not part of Nigeria again and all that, but Nigeria is saying, well, this is how we want to run this thing. So you still have to confront them one way or the other. So that is the missing link in what they are saying. And that's the major difference between us and them. Because at every moment, instead of having a timeline of anything, one can have a timeline to organize conferences. That's not the problem. People can come or they may not come. But in terms of political liberation, it is not a question of timeline, but the critical sector of the people that will make things happen at every point in time. So we say on our own, okay, this is the situation in Nigeria now. Everybody is scrambling to get a piece of the pie, as they say in Nigeria. And we have a Yoruba man struggling to get a piece of the pie. So let them struggle there. Let them do whatever it is they want to do. But don't let us disturb the Yoruba person in Yoruba land. If we are not going to be part of it, let's leave him to do whatever he wants to do. At the same time, we know that there are certain political players in Yoruba land that can do certain things that will be beneficial to the Yoruba struggle eventually. That's why we zeroed in on the houses of assembly. That, hey, when the chiefs are down, let's say, and we have had it in Nigeria several times, if there's a crisis and there's no election or the military comes in and all that, or they do their doctrine of necessity and all that, then whichever force is behind that doctrine of necessity or military coup will now select people from the different regions of Nigeria and put them together and say we have a national government. And we are saying that is not even good enough for us. Let us, before the crisis grows beyond the thing, we have people on ground that can legitimize our demands. Once we are able to legitimize, that's the first step. Once we are able to legitimize our demands by passing the bill for a referendum into law, then anything that happens, they have to confront it. Because we have passed a law, we have conducted a referendum, this is where we stand. So nobody can come and start saying, okay, if anybody is going to organize any national conference or anything, we already have our position stated in the referendum. So in any struggle of this nature, there must be a particular roadmap that the people will stand behind, that the people will follow, that this is the way we are going to achieve this thing. If we want to fight, then we have an army. We say we have a Yoruba Liberation Army. And, the army will start fighting, and then we start fighting anything that comes in our way. But since we are not going that route, there must be a political roadmap that will compel the Nigerian state to relate with us on our own terms. And then we can then negotiate whatever it is that is necessary to be negotiated. That is the major difference between us and them, because we are not talking about conferences. Yeah, there will be conferences maybe to debate and all that. But we have identified the political, what they call the political class in Yoruba land. Within that political class, we have the houses of assembly, and it is their responsibility to pass the bill into law. It is our responsibility to put pressure on them to pass it into law. Once we get to that point, we can then start developing other tactics. Not that we don't have it, but we have to wait for each particular moment. Okay, so these people now say, okay, in February, they are going to do something. But February is when they are going to have their election, right? Okay, so what are you going to do in February that will not be either contradicting the elections or become an obstacle, or in the election, or rather you have to postpone it? Then you say you are going to do something in May. If everything works according to plan, May is when they want to hand over government to whoever wins the election. So let's assume another Fulani man wins the election and they hand over power to him. And then you say you are organizing the Yoruba this. And these are the Yoruba people who actively participated in that election. Or maybe the Igbo guy, or even the Yoruba guy self. So if the Yoruba man wins, and then you now say, okay, so the difference is very major, but it's not difficult to overcome if the active participants are just able to avoid, again, what I call Yoruba politics. So,
okay.
And then do what they are need to. But the point we have identified, and it is always necessary. If, for example, look at the Occupy Ojota, I think it was under Jonathan and all the rest, when they were fighting against fuel hike price and all that, there was a critical segment of people that carried out the fight, regardless of the outcome. If we come to the NSAS, in spite of the introduction of national stuff, Bonnie Yoruba, this and Yoruba that, you see, when they were doing the NSAS, there was also a critical segment of people that was able to jumpstart the process and then move it, of course, hijack and all the rest of it. So at every political struggle, you must identify that critical segment that can move things forward, for another critical segment to take over, to push it forward, for another critical segment to take over until total victory is achieved. Without those critical segments, we'll just be having conferences upon conferences and setting up bodies and this and that and all the rest of them. So you set up a Yoruba leadership body and have a Yoruba president, installed, and then you now say, okay, let us go and negotiate with the president. This is what the Yoruba agenda, this is what we want. And the guy who can say, okay, hey, but I can't do this thing without my backers in the north. This is not just a Yoruba thing. And then they will start, all kinds of stuff like that. In the process, people will be angling for positions and this and that, and all kinds of things will start happening. It has happened before. I'm not saying a Tinubu will behave exactly like an Obasanjo, because he was also a victim of Obasanjo, when Obasanjo destroyed Afenifere virtually, so we know what happened. So the lack or the inability to identify that critical segment and engage that critical segment in what needs to be done at any particular time, that is the problem with Yoruba land today. And this is not a question of arrogance or anything. The Yoruba Referendum Committee has solved that problem by identifying the Houses of Assembly as the critical segment that can do the job. So what is left for us is to maximize the pressure on those members on the Houses of Assembly to do what they need to do. And then when they do that, and then they are the ones to conduct the referendum also, then that they have finished their own historical task. Yeah. The product of the referendum will now require another critical segment that will push it forward. That's why in the bill, we said there will be a constitutional commission that will do certain things, negotiate with the Nigerian government, international community, and all the rest, and talk about the Yoruba and Kwara and Kogi states and all that. That will be another critical segment. So everything has its own stage. The point is, maybe when things appear too simple, people appear to ignore its importance.
Right.
Because of its simplicity, then they will ignore its relevance. But when it comes with all sorts of baggage, then they will want to plug themselves and do all this. So that's what I say about this thing. It's not, regardless of whether we will acknowledge it or not, it's okay. The point is we have it also on record. So, and we are not making any unjustified claims against them. Yeah. We are just saying that, it would have been better if everything is recognized and presented as such.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that position. And we'll be moving to the third one so that at the last bit of it, we can then try to bring everything together. But before then, we'll go for a shorter break and we'll be back shortly after that ad break. So those that are with us, please do stay on with us. We will be back after this short ad break. Right, you are welcome back to the last segment of our chat today with Alagba Femi Odedyi. Remember, what we're actually doing today is assessing documents from Yoruba Liberation groups, and we've gone through two, and the last one is the one we'll be dealing with just right now. Alagba Femi Odedyi, thank you for being with us from the beginning of this program, and then this is our last segment.
Thank you.
On this program, and we'll be going straight to the last letter, and it's called Letter from Overwhelming Majority of Yoruba People who are determined to uphold and liberate our Yoruba nation to all Yoruba Obas. So this is directed at Yoruba Obas. It seems things are, if you can put it that way, that things are slightly improving. The last letter we read, we see a liberation group, whether an individual or committee of group, actually writing a sort of, mentioning the political office holders, which was contrary to what we had before in the past, maybe 1-2 years back, when a good number of liberation groups have been actually threatening or insulting the political and taking them as traitors and stuff. So, and I know this is one of the things we've always been saying, that we need to engage with them, even if they don't support whatever is being done, but then they are placed in a sort of a position in which they have responsibilities to the people, even if they don't want to do it. Is the power of the people to compel them, appeal and compel, like one of our ex-leaders used to say, you use the cane and the carrot. So you appeal and compel that they should be able to stay connected to them rather than pushing them away from where they are. So this particular letter is actually directed at the Obas, and that's why I'm saying that it seems now we're having it's sort of a progress where liberation groups are willing to talk or connect with other leaders in the country, especially in Yoruba land. It won't be surprising to see that Chief Adeniyi Adeyemo, that is popularly known as Igboho, has his signature here. And I could remember that when he had the challenge he had, and Oni of Ife was called to intervene then. Oni of Ife actually did intervene, but he mentioned, well, they spoke to them then, but it was insult. So that they could come right back and start to speak to these others, whether they're going to do what they want or not. But then I think they come to understand that everybody has to be carried along. So this comes from, I've got about 60 people who signed this, and that comes across Professor Banji Akitoye. Then we also have Professor Wole Soyinka here. Of course, I've mentioned Igbo, Dupe Onitiri, Pastor David Odedyi, Ronke Okusanya, Otumba Olabode Oseni, and of course about 60 people in all. And this letter is directed to the
Obas.
The most part of it, first of all, is acknowledging the Obas. And that's why I'm saying that, yeah, it seems we're having a bit
moving forward.
Yes. So I'll take the parts, which is part of the salutation, jump to the middle, where they're talking about the dangers Yoruba land is in, which I think everybody understands. Then I will move on to their actual points, what their own perception about the liberation is, because of our time. So now, Kabiesi, we, your people, salute you with love, humility, and with our duty as your subjects. We pray that you may reign for many more years on the ancient throne of your ancestors. This letter comes to you from us, your Yoruba people at home and in the diaspora in most countries of the world, in order to call your attention to the grave dangers currently confronting our whole Yoruba nation in Nigeria. Apologies. So for 7 years now, the Fulani people of northern Nigeria have been coming as hostile invaders and terrorists armed with sophisticated modern weapons to our homeland, destroying our people's farms, killing our people, raping and killing our women, killing our children on their way to and from school, killing worshippers in places of worship, forcing large numbers of our farmers to abandon farming altogether, kidnapping and extorting ransom, generally pushing us towards a devastating shortage of food, generally pushing our whole economy towards total collapse. The Fulani have even become so daring that they have attacked some of our Oba's palaces and killed one first-class Oba. We are close to being slaves in Nigeria. Then they did mention how the emirs in the north will always stand for their people, and that whatever they stood up or they stand up to say is taken with seriousness. They upon the fact that most of the Fulani themselves are not Muslims. Only the Fulani minority that we know in the affairs and politics of Nigeria are Muslim. The nearly 90% of Fulani people, consisting of the cattle herders and militias that are ravaging our homeland, are non-Muslim but worshippers of various tribal deities and forest entities. The Muslim Fulani elites never attempt to convert this majority to Islam. Nevertheless, the Fulani nation say that they will use Islam as the battle cry for conquering us in Yoruba land. They believe that despite the fact that most of these Fulani elders are not Muslims, they're using Islam as a tool to attack not just only Christians, but as well as Yoruba Muslims and people with indigenous religions. But the core part of it is that they said they are taking the Yoruba out of Nigeria, and they are only calling for the Obas to stand up to support them. Kabiyesi, while we, your people, are faced with this dire emergency, we naturally expect our Obas and chiefs to be by our side in this struggle. The institution of our kingship is an ancient institution that is today about 2,000 years old. Each of our Obas sits on the throne of great kings who for 2,000 years have upheld the security and dignity of our nation and defended our nation against every kind of attack. Your duty to defend our nation is not a matter of choice. It is a mandate imposed on you by your throne and crown and by our history, our traditions, and our culture. We all expect you to stand up and do that duty. We often hear some of our Obas saying that they have a duty to Nigeria, to preserve Nigeria. Your duty is to us, your people, to your ancestor, to all Yoruba people alive today, and those Yoruba that will be born hereafter. We expect you to stand up now and defend our land and people. This is even a duty to the Mother Earth that are giving us our motherland for countless thousands of years, and to the spirit that have watched over our land, our people, and of course, our institutions. We have no sympathy whatsoever for the belief by any of our Obas that his duty is the preservation of Nigeria or an entity other than our Yoruba land and people. And we have this part because it would be good to identify what exactly their purpose is. So, Your Majesty, the battle line has been drawn, and we expect you to stand with us on our side of the line. We love you, we adore you, and we will stand by you in all situations. But we demand and expect that you stand with us too. What we're asking you to do is not impossible or difficult. We're asking you to stand up and do your duty to your Yoruba nation. Our culture, tradition, and history demand that we should love, respect, and honor you. But the same culture, tradition, and history demand that you should stand by our side at all times. What exists between you and us is a historic contract that is thousands of years old. Whatever breaks that contract might call down terrible penalties upon his head and upon the head of his family. Yeah, just because I want to be sure that we have okay. I want to be sure that I get that part, which states what exactly they are expecting, because asking the Obas to stand up, battle line is drawn and go, we have to know exactly for what. Yes, the Fulani elders and terrorists in our forest are attacking us, but we need to know what exactly this group wants to do with the Yoruba people. Under the relentless deterioration and retrogression of the quality of governance and security in Nigeria, the constantly expanding poverty, and the reign of chaos, the overwhelming majority of us, your Yoruba people, have come to the conclusion that our best means of preserving our nation and our people is to separate our nation from the Fulani. They claim that they have a right to enter at will into our homeland and destroy because we belong to the same country of Nigeria. Now we are separating our Yoruba nation from Nigeria. out of respect for ourselves as a civilized nation, we are proceeding peacefully and in law-abiding manner to separate our Yoruba nation from Nigeria. This humble letter comes from Yoruba people at home and in diaspora in most countries of the world. It is approved, supported, endorsed, and signed by millions of members of hundreds of Yoruba self-determination organizations at home and in most countries of the world. On their behalf, it is hereby signed by about 60 signatures. Now, just like the first two, because those people that signed here, and I think we can recognize some of them, especially Professor Banji Akitoye right on there, also Professor Wale Adeniran, Professor Yinka, among others. So I will ask, because they said these are signed by millions of members, millions of hundreds of Yoruba self-determination groups at home and in most countries of the world. So the first question will be whether your organization is also involved in this.
The same answer is no. No, we are not involved in it because we didn't even know when it was written. Then to a certain extent, yes, with an explanation.
Okay.
Like the other one. So, Professor Banji Akintoye is well known to us, and we are well known to him. And like I said, when the Yoruba Referendum Committee was formally constituted, he was part of that formation right from the beginning.
Right.
And then, you know, we drifted apart. And then they went into Yoruba World Congress and this and that, and up till now. So he is very much aware of what we are doing and where we stand. That is just the yes part of it. But no, we are not part of this thing. Essentially, the disagreement rests on whether a sovereign state is necessary or not. Whether because the question of Nigeria is not really Fulani this, Fulani that. It's a question between unitarism and federalism. If we recall, when Awolowo's famous quote, Nigeria is not a nation, it's a mere geographical expression and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
Why did he make that statement? He said, you know, all these, we have different nations in Nigeria and different nationalities and all that. So we can't be a nation in the same sense as either the Welsh or the English and all that. So we can't. So that was the basis for his formulation of a federal state. And even when they formed Egbe Omoduduwa, one of the points in the constitution of Egbe Omoduduwa was that they want a Nigeria that will be constituted as a federal state with all the nationalities as components of that state. That was how we ended up with the definition of a federal state in Nigeria in the bill for a referendum, a union of constituent nationalities. So right from the beginning, it was a battle between federalism and the forces of unitarism. And we know the history, how the whole thing played out between the East and the North against the West and all the rest of it. So it's a battle that we have to decide whether federalism can be victorious or not. So it's not whether the Fulani are doing this or the Fulani are doing that. They are doing whatever the Fulani are doing is simply because they are in control of the central government. That's the bottom line. It's not because even though they claim that somebody said it's the estate of their father, they can claim anything. But the power that is behind them is their control of the central government. And we know how this had been manifesting since 1959. It was the alliance with the East that gave them power in 1959, the same thing in 1979, and the same thing that has been happening. So that is number one. Number two, what is the meaning of a sovereign state? The modern sovereign state we know today, that the world knows today, arose out of Europe when the Holy Roman Empire was dissolved by wars and all the rest of it, and all the different sovereign nations that we know today as sovereign nations in Europe emerged from that dissolution. But most of them emerged based on their homogeneity. Most of them have the same language, the same culture, the same, in fact, all of them virtually wiped out their kings. The latest was in France, during the French Revolution, when the Jacobins, when they removed, so, and even the English monarchy retained its power up till simply the after the colonial rule and stuff like that. So, and they are still contesting it today.
Yes.
So they were monocultural, monolingual largely, and so they were able to create such nation states based on that monolithism. That was what they brought to Africa by all their colonial possessions. They now disregarded the multicultural, multilingual nature of the peoples of Africa, and then they put everybody together and then call it a nation. That was what Awolowo was referring to when he called it a mere geographical expression. So how do you arrive at a nation of one monolith entity? By neutralizing the other nationalities in that country. That's the only way. And the only way you can do that is by having that centralized control, if it is possible. So otherwise, what you will have is continuous conflict. And that is what we have been having in Africa since independence, because one nationality wants to impose itself on the other because of the control of the central apparatus. So the problem of Nigeria is not the Fulani, it is a contest between federalism and, because for the world, if we are now going to start creating all these sovereign states, every nationality in Nigeria has a reason to be sovereign. Yes. Or in Africa for that matter, every one of us. So are we going to say, okay, once we have our own, we don't care about the rest? And the reality is that the Nigerian state is not just going to sit idly by and say, okay, say you want your, go now. That is number one. Then number two is, why do we find it difficult or impossible to even try to defeat the central states and create a new state structure for all the peoples, all the nationalities of Nigeria? That is the challenge. So when they now say, yeah, we are appealing to the Obas to go and all that, the emirs in the north are backed. They have their powers are because the central government is under the northern control, as it were, right from independence. And we know what they did to Awolowo to try to make sure that it doesn't happen. And we know the role Obasanjo played in the whole system when he was the military head of state, and later as the military head of state, and later as the civilian head of state. Why? Because Obasanjo has this notion that the nationalities don't exist. It is only Nigerians that exist. And who are the Nigerians? So they have to destroy all the nationalities for Nigeria to emerge. And it is that's a military mindset. That was how they were trained in their military. until using one or the rest came and disrupted the whole thing. So the question is not that our obas will come and do this and do that, especially when they don't have the power to back up whatever declaration they make. And it brings us back to the first question. Okay, the first letter says they have already left. The second letter says, yes, we want to be a region in Nigeria and all that. Now, this third letter is now saying we haven't left too, but we want the Obas to come and join us. Okay, so let's even leave our own referendum committee out of it for now. We have 3 and 4. The governor is saying, I represent my people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the governors will say that, whether they say it openly or not. Okay, so we have 4 options, and everyone is claiming to represent Yoruba people.
Yeah.
Number 1, that sends a signal to even your enemies that you don't know what you are doing, because with those 4 options, they can easily find a way to manipulate one against the other. 5 options. There are those who want to contest for office. So from the Nigerian angle, so we have 5 options. So everybody is claiming, I represent my people. But unless you are saying that the people are stupid or useless, they can't have 5 options. They must be able to line up behind one option. So that's why we at the referendum committee is saying, all these options, they can be many. We can be 1,000 options safe. But let us hold a referendum to say one thing. We want to be under one regional government. We want our own regional center, not even a regional government as such. We want to be able to manage our affairs ourselves. Let us make it a valid and legitimate request. When we have that, we can debate whatever options we want to have, and we can choose any options that suits our purposes at any point in time. And I will give you a direct example. During the APC primaries, when Tinubu came to Abeokuta and started speaking in Yoruba language and said all the things that he said, the first person that attacked him was this guy called Lawal, Babacha Lawal, who is a Christian and a minority from the Northeast. But that's not even the problem. It is what he said that is the issue. He said, why should Tinubu speak in Yoruba? Because there are some northerners in the audience, and that is why Yoruba people cannot be trusted. That is what I took out from every other thing. Okay, so let's even assume that Tinubu spoke in Yoruba and all that and all. What has that got to do with trusting Yoruba or not? Shebi, if you don't trust Tinubu, then tell us you don't trust Tinubu. But you see, that is a cultural expression. Because in the north, the minorities cannot speak their language in the presence of the Fulani people. Why? Because the Fulani have power in the center. And of course, we know the Ahmadu Bello northernization policy. Even a Yoruba man was his private secretary when he was the premier of the north. That's Ahmadu Bello. What's this guy's name from Kogi State? I've forgotten his name now. He's a Yoruba man. But they know what they... So when we say the question is not the Fulani, it is about power and federalism in Nigeria. That is what we are talking about. So this guy that attacked Tinubu is APCO. He's a Christian, and he's a northerner, and the minority, they call them minorities in the north. But all that mattered to him was that because Tinubu spoke in Yoruba, the Yoruba cannot be trusted. Now, if you can get that, then you will see that the problem is not Fulani this, Fulani that, but the question of power or central power in Nigeria. So if they are now saying they don't want to contest it with the Fulani, they want to leave, well, that is fine. But, if because the Fulani themselves are not even claiming that they have power, they are claiming control of Nigerian states to manifest their power. So everything they do is under the canopy of the Nigerian states. So when they nominate people to the United Nations and the people are Fulani, they will say representing Nigeria. The president representing Nigeria. The chief of army staff is the Nigerian Armed Forces. All these kinds of stuff, Independent National Electoral Commission and all the rest. So they operate under the cover of the Nigerian states. So the question before us is, how do we puncture that control so that the state becomes a state for now? Everybody that now doesn't want to be part of that state can then go wherever they come from. But that's beside the issue. So the question is always about the control of that state. And I don't think running away from the problem will solve the problem. So all those who are saying we are leaving, come and tell us, come and join us, we are leaving. They are just running away from the problem. And like I said, the first letter and the last letter to the Obas are virtually two sides of the same coin, because you are not even, they can claim that the Obas are a critical segment. Yes, they are a critical segment in the power configuration. But then, because of the limitation of their position, of the official position, you will hardly expect an Oba to come out and start saying, yes, Yoruba nation now, we are going. No Oba will say that. And you should even put them in the position to saying that. All the while, when they were having Adeko and all the rest of them, there were many Obas that were solidly behind the Adeko enterprise. But you never hear about it.
Sure.
Until after the event. So this Oba is part, So that is how these things are done. It's not the grandstanding that they are doing. That, Oba, come and join us, and this and that and that. And like I said, there's a political context in all of these things. Whether you like Tinubu or you don't like Tinubu, or he's this or he's that, or whatever it is you want to say about him, the point is, he is the face, the Yoruba face today. If you remove the face or you rubbish the face, you will still have to come up with another face eventually. And that is why, you see, that is the difference between us and them. That is the Yoruba referendum committee and them. When we are talking of a regional center, a regional, legal, valid center, that is the face of Yoruba land. So it is not based on an individual, because anything can happen to the individual. Yeah. The individual can decide to do anything based on his circumstances or whatever it is. But the point is, as long as he is in the race, he is the individual face. But we are moving beyond an individual face to an institutional face.
Right.
So that when the institution becomes legalized and legitimized, so if Tinubu loses, no problem. If he wins, no problem. You just say, Baba, you don't get there. Oh yeah, move. And then let him say, no, I'm not moving. I'm going to sit down where I am. Then we know where we go from there. But the point is, we have to transit from that individual face to an institutional face. And because the institutional face is already legalized, validated, and legitimized, then we can do anything we want to do with it. And that's the major difference between us and all the rest of them.
Okay, thank you very much, Alagba Femi Odedyi from Yoruba Referendum Committee. So let's take this very short answer. The liberation or the chant for liberation has been on. There was actually even a video of Chief Bolaige, our governor of Oyo State, but also the former Attorney General of the Federation under Chief Olusegun. There was a video of him that was saying that by 2020, I think, was it 20,000? No, I think it was 20,000 that Yoruba will be liberated. So the liberation struggle has been on for a while. And the current one, I think we can talk about 2 years, if not more, that this has been ongoing. But it seems we've not been able to lay our hands on any sources, any appreciable sources, where we can say that 2 years ago, this is where we are.
Yeah.
And we've taken this action, and this is where we have moved to. And we'll talk about the force majeure. It's not worked, so to say, or probably the evidence has not shown yet. But if everything is still operating as is, that means it hasn't worked. We've spoken about stopping the elections, but that has not worked as well. Even a legal challenge has been launched, which has failed. I'm not too sure whether that has been appealed, although the Ilana Omodu said they were going to appeal that case, which was just last month, to stop the Ekiti election. The Osun State election is coming this month, and it seems they are not even attempting again, or probably much noise is not being made about it. The other one failed, and the court seems to ask that the status quo should remain. So that has not worked as well. We've also had like other, I don't know other what I want to caption it, but then we have other organizations that were talking about, yes, we now have Yoruba Nation, we now have like a central account for people to pay into, we're going to do your passport and this. We've also had, I think it was Akogun, I don't fully remember the second name, that said, no, you can't set up a Yoruba central account when the Yoruba Nation is not in existence.
Yes.
So that means on that, from that front as well, we've not had any sources. And one begins to look at it 2 years on, it's almost like we are worse from where we are. And when I use that worse, it's looking at from the angle that, like Chief Sunday Adeyemo Igboho by name has not been able to return to Nigeria, although he's been released. Baba Akintoye also had to leave Nigeria and move to Benin Republic because he said they want to assassinate him. So if we really look at before the thing started, we don't have this. They could move freely. In fact, they could come out and talk about Yoruba Nation and why. I mean, they were going to conferences and co. But now, things seems to have dragged back a little bit, and we cannot actually point that, okay, this is the sources that we have made, other than, let's say, we have the signature for the 5 million United Nations petition, if we can say that. Probably we also talk about the Yoruba Referendum Committee having like a petition that is over 11,000, and the bill is being sent to all the governors, and
nothing has been done about it yet.
So nothing has been done about it yet. So what exactly is the problem from your view?
Yeah. One, I think the problem is the inability of the various forces to directly confront the problem. It's a theoretical problem. That is, what is the problem what is the problem we are trying to resolve? When they say we are this and that. Now, if Yoruba nation sovereignty in Yoruba, Nigeria is even declared, are they going to abandon the Yoruba in Benin Republic that had been a source of strength to Yoruba people, both during the military and even now? Are they now going to ask the Yoruba to leave Benin Republic, and then you expect the Benin Republic government to say, yeah, go and stuff like that? So these are the major problems. But let's go back to the Bola Ige era. And, when I said something about the face, that is the face of the struggle, at one point, Bola Ige represented that face, in the Nadeko days and all that. And I remember there was a report of his holding some meetings with some Yoruba groups outside Nigeria, and he told them that yeah, if they make any mistakes, they should just correct them. They will listen. But the guy came to Nigeria, and then, against even his Afenifere, accepted an appointment under Obasanjo. And when he resigned that appointment, and what he said, the reason for his resigning that appointment was that he has to come and reorganize Yoruba land. That was when he was murdered. So whether it's connected or not, maybe it can be open to speculation. So that is the problem with personalizing the struggle. So that most of the time we entrust the individual with the ability to do this and that and that and that, which, yeah, is true. But we forget the organizational, the institutionalization of the struggle itself. When Awolowo was under persecution, it would have been very easy to isolate Awolowo from the action group if the action group was not itself designed to withstand such persecution. So the action group was established for a specific purpose in 1951, and it achieved its purpose during the elections and what it set out to do. So as an institution, when they started to attack Awolowo now, they also had to attack the action group itself. And then, we all know what happened. So in these times, there is this disconnect between the individuals and any form of institutionalization. So when the individual is attacked or isolated, then the institution suffers. But why is there no institution that will support that will make that individual the face, so that when the individual is attacked, the institution goes ahead? It is because whoever those are involved in that situation are yet to come to terms with, I won't want to use the word intellectual because that might sound insulting, with the reality of what they are actually doing. In other words, when you understand primarily when you say you want Yoruba sovereignty, for example, the simple meaning of it is secession from Nigeria. So all this running around, we don't want violence, we don't want this, we can achieve it peacefully, we can do this, they are just dancing around the issue. So if you have decided for one reason or the other that we must get out of Nigeria, then you start making preparations for creating an institution that will make it happen. Your political and military formation, no matter how. But if you say, well, you want to defeat this unitary structure, you want to do this politically and all that, then you create the institutions that will make it happen. Otherwise, you will still be running around and say, yeah, we have a conference. We have been having conferences since 19, who knows when. We have a conference today, we have a conference tomorrow. Meanwhile, those politicians who are running after political offices or doing this and doing that, whether it is for the benefit of Yoruba land or for their own personal benefit or anything, they know that they have to engage the Nigerian system in order for them to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. And that is why they are always one step ahead of those of us who are talking about self-determination. And we don't have the means of fooling them in and reining them in and making them bow to our own demands. Why? Because we ourselves don't even understand what we are engaged in. That is why we will be printing passports today, opening accounts tomorrow, and somebody will say, how can you open an account when we have not agreed? And somebody will say somebody collected money from somebody, and all kinds of stuff like that, because there is no understanding on our own part on what. So if somebody comes and says, my sovereignty is what we need, I don't have to argue with that person. It is left for that person to convince me to come on board. And what he needs to do, what she or she needs to do is, okay, once sovereignty, how do we achieve it? We need to create an army. But we can't create a public army, we have to create a security. Yes, how do we go about it? This and this and this and this and this and this. So we can make propaganda, we can do all kinds of things. If I feel like it, I can say, yeah, that sounds like, let's go for it. And you may not even know those who are doing it. But if there is a sovereignty now and something happens, we run to the Republic and we say, the Republic save us, they save them. And then you say you want to be part of Nigeria. And then you want Yoruba in the Benin Republic that has already saved you, but to remain in Benin Republic. Well, I mean, so there's a whole lot of confusion that is, and then to make it worse, there's this sense of Yoruba exceptionalism. They think that because the Yoruba has a history of 2000, who doesn't have history of 2000 years in the world, or even more? So we tend to exceptionalize everything. Our Obas are this. Who doesn't have an Oba among the various nationalities of the world? We have this and that. We have this, we have that. Who doesn't have it? But the point is, we don't learn from what others are doing so that we can be able to integrate our knowledge into what we are doing. We are not the only ones that are talking about self-determination in the world, not even in Africa itself. But how many things that has been happening in Africa do people that are even agitating for Yoruba self-determination know about? When we engage them, okay, this is what happened in Somaliland, this is what happened in the Congo. No, it is, yes, Yoruba, we are going, don't worry, God has done it, and all the rest of it. In Catalonia, it is there for everybody to see. In Scotland, it is there for everybody to see. Even recently in Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico people, they are still talking about independence. There are those of them who are talking about it too. But it's again under the canopy of the United States Congress. And they are doing it at the United Nations. They are doing all kinds of stuff with it. So we have examples, but they are not using it. They are not even making it part of their discourse. So all they end up with is Yoruba exceptionalism. And then they will now go into Yoruba atavism and say, yeah, this is a foreign this is a foreign that. We can do this, all kinds of stuff like that. So I will limit it. I will say the problem is in that lack of understanding of what they are even talking about. And that is what is causing all these problems. Because if they understand what is something they are talking about, they will know how to go about it, because they will have learned from other experiences. We are not an exceptional people in the world, or that we are not the first people in the world that will talk about self-determination and the sovereignty and all the rest of it. So let's get off that exceptionalism and saying we have done this, we have done that. Other people can also point to their history and say they have done this, they have done that. And so what? So the question boils down to, what do we do with Nigeria?
Yes.
If that is the question, one thing you cannot do is to run away from it. Because if you run away from it, it will follow you where you are going and chase after you. So you have to stay and confront it. So the question now is, how do we confront it? Yes, it is easy to say, if a Yoruba becomes president, they have the military surrounding them, they have this, they have that. Okay, fine. When Jonathan was president, and before he became president, we know what the Jones were claiming, what they want this, they want that, they are trying blowing up pipes and doing all that. But immediately Jonathan became president, nothing happened again. So who do you blame? Do you blame the Fulani or do you blame the Ijo? Do you blame the president, Jonathan, who didn't lift a finger on Ijo self-determination? Or do you blame the Ijo self-determination groups who are even laying claim to Lagos and all the rest of it for not pushing it through when there are guys in power? So who do you blame? So is it the Fulani that made that possible? Well, maybe, but it doesn't make any sense. When Obasanjo was in power, yes, we know he's representing the Fulani military and all the rest of it. But to a large extent, Tinubu stood up to him as governor of Lagos. What did the other Yoruba organizations do? They teamed up with Obasanjo and isolated Tinubu in Lagos. Is that the Fulani problem? So I'm not saying the Fulani are not doing this, are not doing that, but they are not the problem. The problem is in our understanding of what we are about. When we understand, that's why, again, it's not a question of arrogance or anything. We are very confident in the Yoruba Referendum Committee. It's either win or lose. We know what we want, and we are pursuing it, and we know who is going to do it. It is our politicians, first from the houses of assembly, that should do what they need to do. Yes, we don't have the means of compelling them at this point, but we know, even if we can't get it done before the next election, when the next set comes in, the point is still going to be there, if not going to be what. So once you are focused on what we are pursuing and you understand exactly what the whole thing is going on, then it will be easier to advance. That's the difference between us. And this thing is not difficult. Emotionalism does not translate into political realities.
Sure.
And so we should be clear about that. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit, probably I was a little bit emotional, but these things they are there to learn from. To me, if I'm going to make any recommendation, I will just ask everyone to go and learn or read or study about the Catalonia situation, because that resembles our situation more than any other. Let us go and study how they did it, where they are, how they got to where they are, and what lessons we can learn from them. The independence struggle in Catalonia ended up changing the central government in Spain, such that the central government in Madrid is now negotiating with them. If they had said they don't care, they don't do this, they started running away, the fascist government in Spain will still be in government. Yes. And they will be the ones running around all the thing. So let us learn from what others have done or what they are doing, the impact it will have on us, and how we can integrate those lessons into, and stop all this Yoruba exceptionalist thing. It won't get anywhere. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that expansive expansive answer to that question. So, like, I mean, we're rounding up now, and we've identified sort of what the problem is and why there's not been that much progress. I mean, to date, there seems not to be, except if the information has not reached us, and most times we do get info. There is not yet any form of platform that is being planned to bring all Yoruba self-determination group on board, and not to join, but to be able to look at what each one is doing, and to be able to have like a common front. Even probably, let's say, if not even if not one, probably the options to say that, okay, we've listened to all these, we've seen that these are the route that we can select and put forward, then we also assess those ones. There's nothing that is being planned at the moment. So would it just be safe to say that the sort of things that we're experiencing now, that we're not actually seeing progress, that we're on a long night journey?
Well, yes and no. Again, you see, the outcome of the current political process,
yes,
that is the electoral process, will create its own context for anything that the self-determination people will have to do. For example, if Tinubu wins the presidency,
yes,
by I mean, they have to either denounce it, that is the Yoruba sector, that you are on your own, we are not part of it, you have left Nigeria, and then they can go. First, Tinubu will say, well, I'm the representative of the people, and so that becomes a thing. Or they engage Tinubu on, look, man, when you are governor of Lagos State, you fought against unitarism. And Nigeria is a unitary state. You are now the president, so you must be able to do something about the federal question, the national question in Nigeria. Tinubu can then tell them to go and, I don't want to see all of you. Or say, oh yeah, let's talk about it. Where do we go from here? Something we have to give. So the electoral system will create its own political context that the self-determination groups must have to relate with. Now, if Tinubu doesn't win and the Atiku of the PDP wins, that is a guy that they have already slapped all the Southerners in the face by even making him their presidential candidate. So it will now be left for the self-determination movement of Onan to say, okay, now that you are there, again, the Yoruba people can say, we are not part of Nigeria, we are not part of it. And then he can say, well, Yoruba people voted for me, so what's your problem? Then they can still move away from Nigeria and all that. And if it is Obi that wins, and then say, look, Lagos is no man's land, let them deal with it. So there is a need to always look at that system and the context that it will create. That is what will determine how far the liberation movement goes or how far it doesn't go. I gave the example of the Ijaw the other time.
yes,
That after blowing up all the pipelines and all that, and the guy came to power, and then everything just went. So it means there is a shortage of what they are asking for. That all they wanted essentially was let our man get to power. And the man got there and everything fizzled out. When we look at our own side, we have the OPC, the Odua People's Congress, of Fasim and Gani Adams and all that. When they did all they did and ran around and suppression and all the rest, they ended up looking for oil pipeline security contracts from the same Jonathan organization. So there's a sense in appreciating, that is understanding what the electoral system is bringing, that will allow you to devise your strategies as to how to move forward. Like I said, if it is sovereignty, there's no ifs and buts about it. it is secession, period. There is no, whether they want to negotiate it or they want to fight over it, it is secession. The only way you can negotiate it is by letting the other guy knows that if they don't sign the agreement with you, you will bombard them out of, yeah, that's all. So let's stop kidding. So the first thing is, let's stop kidding ourselves as to what you can want secession, no problem. Just go for it. Don't hide behind any other thing. Those that don't want secession, but are looking at it from a different perspective, let them now sit down and say, okay, oh, where do we go from here? And again, I will say we have provided a template. Let us, if we can get our houses of assembly to do what we ask them to do. What I missed the other time when I mentioned Babacha Lawal and Tinubu in Abeokuta was that it was after the Abeokuta speech that Tinubu gave in Yoruba language. And then you start seeing them in the north running over them saying, yeah, no, we can't allow that to happen. And then the governors back down. Yeah, so there's a sense in which the context, the electoral context, will affect the national liberation struggle. And it is our responsibility to make sure that we not necessarily subject our strategies to it, but to let it inform on whatever strategies that we adopt. And then we will be able to avoid all this letter writing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good to write letters so that we can understand. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And the parting question will be this. Moving forward on the side of the organization, what's the next step?
Well, very simple. I always like to say things are simple because they are actually simple.
Right.
For us, is to say, we ask them to align with what we are doing. That is the simplest part. Let's all get together and put enough pressure on these houses of assembly to do what they need to do. And the template is already there. There's no ifs and buts. Everything is laid out clearly. We don't need to have a World Association of Yoruba organizations to do that. Let everyone sign up behind it. Whether now some will say, but Tinubu is this, Tinubu is that, he won't do this, he won't do that. Let Tinubu deal with his own issues. Ours is to deal with our own issues. And when Tinubu has to confront us, then we will be able to know where we go from there. Why are we afraid of confronting him if necessary? So that is one. Two, again, a sense of humility is necessary in this things. That one of the major problems we have seen when we established the Yoruba Referendum Committee, we made it very clear we are not establishing any organization. That's why we called it Referendum Committee, because it has a specific purpose. The purpose is to get the referendum done in Yoruba land, and you don't need to create an organization for that. What you need is for organizations to buy into it, to put pressure on the central government. So it's a very simple thing to do. The only question, the difficult thing is, do these organizations and their leaders even agree on that path? They don't have to agree. We can't force them to agree. But those who agree, let them come on board so that we move ahead and do that. Those who want to create passports and they can create their own passport. That's their own issue. But like you said, so far that I know, it is the referendum committee pathway that we know that is on ground. Of course, those who want to participate in election, APC, PDP, LP, they also have their own. But in terms of the self-determination and all that, we are the ones that have a clear-cut pathway. Those who want Yoruba sovereignty also have their own pathway which we don't know, so they can, continue on that. So it's not about unity of organizations as such. It's about establishing that pathway, which we have started doing, and make it succeed. So anyone that wants to be part of it is welcome to join us. I mean, not join the committee, but to be part of the process, because we are not creating any organization. Otherwise, in 2 months' time, we will fight among each other, and somebody will say, I've left because of this and that and that. We don't want all that. It's not necessary. This thing is on its own. And we are not the ones taking responsibility towards conducting. We are just saying, look, these guys, you have been elected for this purpose. Then you must be able to carry it out. And we can work together to get that done. That should not be a problem for anybody to agree to. And it's very clear.
Thank you very much, Alagba Femi Odedyi, for your time today.
Yeah.
The poster you are seeing right on there is the poster from Yoruba Referendum Committee, inviting everyone to sign the petition. Just like we mentioned, I hope we're still hearing me. Yes.
Ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòro bí èwe.
Right, that is us just getting back. That is from Yoruba Referendum Committee, and that is the poster. Sorry, we had a bit of technical glitch, but I think that is us right on back. And this is just to let people know the benefits of what they've requested for 2022 Yoruba referendum, and the purpose is to federate and constitute all Yoruba states into one region, bearing in mind that during the regional government in 1960s, I mean, late 50s flowing into the 60s, it was an era that is referred to as the golden era in Yoruba land. So it's asking the people to sign the petition to ensure that the representatives at the assemblies, we have something called from here. Okay, I think I'm back right on. Are you hearing me, sir?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. So that the representative at the state houses of assembly. When we mention houses of assembly, it's not the National Assembly in Abuja. We're talking about the houses of assembly in the Southwest Yoruba states, and we're talking about people that you see on daily basis. Those are the members of the state houses of assembly that you need to ask them to work on the bill. The bill is already with them, and that's just to also add to what Alagba Femi Odedyi has said, that Yoruba Referendum Committee already has a bill that is before the houses of assembly in Yoruba states, and that covers Lagos, which is Eko in Yoruba, Osun, Ondo, Oyo, Ekiti, Kwara, Osun. I think the Kwara and Kogi were meant to later. People have asked why were they not included right now, and the strategy from what was said by the referendum committee is to have a sort of easy passage through the states that are fully in the hands of Yoruba. So that once they get that, then it makes it easier to have a referendum conducted in Kwara and Kogi states. So that's right before your representatives in the state houses of assembly. You need to speak with them, and you need also to sign the petition so that they will know that you are fully right behind this. This has nothing to do with political parties. It has nothing to do whether it's PDP or APC. It doesn't disrupt any election. And from what the organization has said as well, that it also is a sort of a foolproof in the sense that whether Tinubu wins or Atiku wins or Obi wins, the referendum will still hold. Yeah. Even if the military takes over, that is going to be the demand of the Yoruba people, that we want to do to conduct a referendum so that our people can decide on what they want. This is also not about any leader representing any Yoruba. This is about the Yoruba people themselves putting their votes in to say what they want and where the majority will carry the day. It also talks about legitimacy, where if things get out of hand with the Nigerian government, it's easier to appeal to the international community because we have done what we should do. We have got a legitimacy within the country. And that's one of the few things that has been mentioned in the course of the program, that those that are going to the United Nations now, the United Nations know they've not done what should be done back home. And we cannot, as Yoruba, accept it that the Fulani are in our forest now. They are attacking us, but have we been stopped from being in government? We have not been stopped from participating. All the Yoruba states have governors that are Yoruba. Our houses of assemblies, there are Yoruba people that are there. So it's a bit difficult to go to the United Nations and ask them to intervene when we are fully involved in the democratic process. And even one of us is flying the flag for a major party being the president. So it's challenging for us to prove that we've been blocked from participating, and which has wrestled power from us. So what we need to do first of all is to take the first step. Like they say, charity begins at home. Get our members of the houses of assemblies to pass the referendum bill into law. And once that is passed into law, both those who want the question that is being put forward, and those who do not want it will have their day to vote. And that's what they call about democracy, that we've given space and chance to both people who want what you are asking for and people that don't want it to have their say. Yeah. Then the majority carries the vote. The one we are doing at the moment, even if we get 10 million votes, there is still that question. Have others who might not agree with you been given the opportunity to also speak on this issue? And that is a no. In Yoruba, they will say, let's do the things the way it should be done so that the result will be as should be expected. And that brings us to the end of this program. Thank you very much, Alagba Femi Odedyi, for your time today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
You in another 2 weeks as we continue with this program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tani ó padà táyé ṣe o, ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o, tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé, ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòyèwé. Ta ni yóò padà táyé ṣe o? Ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o? Tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé? Ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòyèwé. Ta ni yóò padà táyé ṣe o? Ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà ìlú kí ló dé o? Tẹ́bí ń ṣòro bí èwe kí ló dé? Ẹ̀yin ṣe èèyàn bí ọkà èyí ti ṣe àgbà ìlú àṣòyèwé.
Right, thank you very much for everyone that have joined us on the program today. And that is me signing out. I'm Samuel Oludare Yorokun from OY Media Scotland. I hope to see you next Sunday by God's grace.